Welcome to season 6 of the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast. My name is Demetrius. This podcast is for fans of the Detroit Lions, football fans in general. It's week 1 of the 2024 season. We're coming to you late because our Gridiron Heroes opened week 1 with a Sunday night game. We're not going to be on long because most of you are probably going to bed, but we like to do this right after the game. So we're 15 minutes after the game. And shout out to the super producer extraordinaire, Mike Ward, as always. We hope you like the podcast. We hope you enjoy listening. We've been away for a while. Real life impacted the off season. We didn't do as many podcasts as we want. We had to take care of real life stuff and get things straight, but we're back. We're back for season 6, 2024. Lions open up with the Rams, as I said, and they define the word grit. When people talk about the Lions, that's become a word that has just been synonymous with them lately. In the last couple years, this version of the Lions. And sometimes you think why they choose that word. It's not just about representing the city of Detroit, and that may be part of it. It's good there, but it's a culture, and it's a way that team practices. It's a way Dan Campbell coaches. It's a type of player they want on that football team, and it's the way they win games. Right. I sent my brother a text late in the game. And I said it wasn't really pretty, right? Because it often isn't pretty. They won 12 games. Actually, they won 14 games last year with the 2 playoff wins. And outside of Denver and maybe one that I'm forgetting, none of them were easy or simple. This is what they are. This is how they're thing to touch on the offseason and talk about why I think they're a Super Bowl team. And it's too late. I'm not going to do that because we don't want to be here all night. But it's also simple. The game changed a lot of what I wanted to do and a lot of how I wanted to do it. This team is going to do this to us on a relatively consistent basis. We're going to go through a lot of these. And for those who somehow are watching this podcast but don't know, they went to overtime. Lions won 26-20 in overtime. They kicked a field goal with 30 or so seconds left, less than 30 seconds left to tie the game, and went to overtime, won the coin toss, went right down the field, scored, game's over. It's a win. In 6 years of this podcast, I've never apologized for a win. Don't hold your breath because that's not going to happen. That's not what I do. What I'm not going to do is do the whole thing and talk about all of the reasons why I think they're a Super Bowl team. I'm just going to talk about one. What happened tonight? I don't ever really think they're out of it. When they were down 3 and the Rams had the ball, 4 or so minutes left, I did not think the game was over. Historically, old Lions, you knew the game was over. The other team was going to get 3 first downs and kneel. That's what a Matt Patricia coach Lions team would have done. That's what a lot of old Lion teams would have done. But as I sat there, I thought, nah, we may make it a turnover. We make a play. Instead, we force them to punt. And we get the ball in our own territory, 30-ish yard line, with over 2 minutes. Run the ball on first down, get to the 2-minute warning. And at that point, I said to myself, they're going overtime. Of course they're going to, because this is what this team is. We're not used to this because we've only been watching this version of football for probably 2 years. But I didn't worry. I know, and that's real. I'm not saying that just because they pulled it out. I would have come on had they lost and said to you, I thought we were going to win that game. They were going to win that game. But it was real in that this is what they are. They did this a lot last year, and it doesn't matter because at the end of the year, when they do this 12 or 13 more times, and they're hosting a playoff game, hosting the NFC Championship game, nobody's going to say, oh, but because I contend, and I'm just freestyling today. I usually have a logical progression to the podcast, maybe a few notes, and I'll tell you, hey, I can talk about the culture, and I can do all that as we go through the year, because it's late, because the game dictates that I just talk about this game. Part of me wants to talk about Jordan Love's injury. What do I think about Philly? Because I like Philly, for the record. San Francisco doesn't play until Monday night, so I don't know. But the narrative tomorrow on your radio is going to be they got lucky. No, the narrative might be similar to what I'm saying, which is this is how this football team is going to play. This is how this football team is going to win. I believe, because I didn't do an off-season prediction show. Like I said, I had a lot of things going on in real life that didn't let me do a whole lot of off-season podcasts. But we're working through those things. Don't worry. And we'll be fine. This team, this is what this team is. I didn't expect them. I expected the secondary to play better. I was going to do a whole speech about how the secondary is revamped, but because I'm just winging it in no particular order, Carlton Davis dropped an interception that almost proved to be crucial. Brian Branch played very well, but he dropped 2 interceptions. Terry Arnold committed 2 pass interference penalties in the end zone. One of them was a really bad call that would have been a topic of the podcast had we lost. I text my friend Art, who didn't want Aaron Glenn fired at halftime. I haven't heard from him since the game ended, but the Terry Arnold will get better. I like the way he plays. And I like that they won the game when they played like a B- game. They didn't play well. And I thought about it and I was like, how do I feel about this? They actually didn't play well and beat a good team. The Rams are a good team, no doubt. And that game's at home and they found a way to win. And I think I titled this podcast or the advertisement that you guys are all probably asleep. So it doesn't matter. But if you watch this later, I call it the definition of grit. That's what grit means. When you see grit on shirts and on hats and in all the Lions paraphernalia, that's what grit means. Grit means when you don't play well, when you don't play your best, you still somehow find a way to win the game. That's what grit is. Grit is when David Montgomery just came out in overtime and metaphorically punched the Rams in the face. That's what it is. I don't mind these. I'm used to these. And I was texting with multiple people during the game. And I was getting comments like, how do you do this? Why do you put yourself through this? What's wrong with you? And my answer was, I don't have a choice. I have an illness. I have a number of illnesses, but this is definitely one of them. But for this game might be a microcosm of the season. That's why I just scrapped my notes. The planned podcast, I'm not going to do it. This is it right here. You want to know it's that team. It's the team that in the first half made some mistakes, but still at one point led 17-3 and then shot themselves in the foot. Penalties, missed tackles, almost getting there, get to the quarterback, but don't make the sack, right? That kind of stuff to let the other team, because my theory, and it may be flawed. I don't think so. Using school grades, like grades you get in school, if you're a really good team to a great team and you play your A game, you're going to win against most teams on your schedule, like on the Lions schedule. And I know it pretty much verbatim, but the games that concern me, they're at Houston, they're at San Francisco, they're at Dallas. They obviously are at Green Bay because they play them twice. Buffalo comes to Detroit. Those are the 5 games: Houston, San Francisco, Dallas, Green Bay twice, and Buffalo. 6 games. And that's not to disparage the Rams or Tampa next week or Arizona or Seattle. Those were the 6 games that I said to someone I was talking to. That's the season. That's those 6 games. The other 11 games, they need to go 10-1. And then they kind of need to split the other 6. And I have said 13-4. I think my brother says 14-3, which is certainly doable. None of them, well, not some of them, a lot of them will be what we saw tonight. Just 3 hours of your life where your stomach's gonna hurt. You're going to yell and scream a little, but then when it's over, you will say stuff like, "A win is a win. We're taking it. We're not giving it back," because that's the way the NFL is. No, that's the way the Detroit Lions are, and deep down, we love it. As frustrated as my brother Kenny was at times, my friend Art was, Bear. The people I engage with consistently during games every single week, and the feedback they're giving me during the game, they're all happy, probably asleep right now, but they're all happy right now. Somewhere, we love that this team wins this way. It's in a sick way, it's better. If you tell me they could have blew the Rams out by 3 touchdowns or this, I got to be honest. I think I want this. I think I want this. I think I live for this. They're not going to win them all. I don't. They might have a loss outside of the 5 teams I named. There are other teams on the schedule that can come in, but if you're a really good team, which I think the Lions are, a good to very good team, and you play an A game, you're going to win. If you play a B to B minus game like you played today, another good team can beat you. They can play an A game and beat you. If you play anything less than a B game, pretty much 25 teams in the league could beat you. So what I need, and I would call today there was clearly rust. Goff was okay, not sharp. He got bailed on what should have been an interception. St. Brown didn't have enough targets or catches. Laporta, but they did what they had to do. And Gibbs impacted the game. David Montgomery was a beast. And the best part about the game, well, side note, Alex Anzalone, love what he brought. I loved the play of Levi Onwuzurike and Marcus Davenport. Hutch is still Hutch. Hutch has pressures, and they need to reevaluate how you measure edge rushers and find a way to weight the value of getting a holding call, which he got 2 of them. I think they were back to back. They need to evaluate what happens to a quarterback with the pressure. Aiden Hutchinson impacts the game big time. And I think he had 1 sack. Aiden Hutchinson impacts the game on almost every play. They have to know where he is. They double team him. That guy impacts the game. So he's super valuable. So I love what I saw from the front. Onwuzurike was making plays. Davenport made plays. I love the linebackers. They tackle. The secondary, as much as I wanted to tell you, it was fixed. Maybe it's just about gelling. A lot of people were slipping. I was surprised at the amount of guys who fell today. I don't know if that's a Ford Field thing, but fix that next week if it is. As far as the defense, last year, the defense that ranked 19th overall, 27th against the pass, but 2nd against the run. They're still stout against the run. They're better at getting pressure. Still the back end. They got away with this one. There's still things to fix on the back end. Now, on the offense side of the ball, at the end of the day, we can run it down your throat. David Montgomery's a beast. Jahmyr Gibbs is immensely talented. We can still just punch you in the face when we need to. When we win the overtime coin toss and we got the ball first, cancel Christmas. I knew we were going to score. I had no doubt we were going to score. I didn't know. I didn't know. But I had no doubts in my mind that we were going to go down and score. And I think that when you look at what the impact of Jahmyr Gibbs can be on a game, that stat line, that's the stat line that projects to 60 something catches, that projects to 1,400 yards. He's going to do the same thing every week, but the concept of using him in the manner you used him tonight projects to, let's stop all the Josh Reynolds nonsense. We're not missing. Let's stop talking about the 4th wide receiver. That we don't need to have that conversation anymore. This is how your team's going to win. If you have a lead that you're trying to protect, David Montgomery will run it down somebody's throat. You can't have this every week, right? I need more of that. But that's okay. I think this was circumstantial. It just happened to happen this way. But there were weeks where JMO's going to put up 122 and St. Brown might only catch 3 or 4 balls. And I guarantee you, if you sit down with St. Brown right now and say, you only caught 3 you only had 3 catches, what he would say, we won the football game, right? Because that's what matters. That's what matters. So individual performances, Anzalone, just I'm liking him more and more. Anzarike, Davenport, Hutch up front. There's work to do in the back. There were missed tackles. Carlton Davis slipped on a play that should have been a 3-yard gain, 6-yard gain, ended up being 63 yards. That can't happen. Refs can't call that really cheap pass interference call. There were plays where they showed on the broadcast how Stafford, and you're not going to play Stafford every week. So Baker's not going to do that. Where Stafford could see when you were in man and they knew where they were going with the ball. He could see when you were in a zone, Kupp knew where to sit down. You're not going to face Stafford, Kupp, and Puka. And Puka got hurt pretty early. But you're not going to see that every week. So this is the best case scenario, in my opinion. Because what you saw was that when the time comes, whether you have a late lead or you win the overtime toss, you have a dude who can just punch the other team in the face. like metaphorically just punch the other team in the face. And I have friends from Chicago I talked to yesterday, and they both like, I don't know how we just gave you guys. Yeah. Right. Why? Right. Shout out to Peter and Bonnie, by the way. Yeah. David Montgomery could have, if JMO hadn't had such a great game, you could make a case that David Montgomery won the game. Because those runs of 6 and 8 and 12, where he just runs downhill and bounces off tackles, it wears on guys. And what happened psychologically in the game was when we won the coin toss, everybody in the building knew what was coming. And the first couple runs, and I think it was a penalty that helped with a late hit or something. And we were at their 40 in like 2 or 3 plays, and we knew what was happening. It's fun to win games that way. It's fun to watch your team's identity be revealed to a national audience. And I have other guys who I podcast with all over the country, and they're texting me and they're cracking jokes. And James King says, "Oh, it's going to be jalapeno cornbread tonight, right?" Maybe. But what we know about this particular version of the Detroit Lions is the game is 60 minutes. Sometimes it's more. Like tonight. Do not assume anything. Do not. Just know that this team's going to play the whole game. And when we need to punch you in the face, we'll punch you in the face. If your cornerback sits down, JMO's going to blow past him. And even though he commits pass interference, it's still a touchdown. So the bad isn't really that bad. The bad is, and this is how cornbread and Kool-Aid works. For those of you who don't know what the name means, I see this and I say, we played a B plus game, B minus game maybe, and we still won against a pretty good team. When we click and you saw flashes of it, if JMO is this, if this is what Jamison Williams is, if this is what Levi Onwuzurike is, what Marcus Davenport is, and you didn't get the best Jared Goff, you didn't get pretty much any of Amon-Ra St. Brown, you didn't get a lot of Sam Laporta, but you got doses of Gibbs, you got heavy punch in the face doses of Montgomery when you needed to. I don't know that Ben Johnson called a perfect game, but Jared Goff didn't play poorly. He had a couple throws I didn't love. But the good news when your team plays an average game and still wins is that, because that's what a good team does. Good teams don't have to play a perfect game to win. That's what we take away from tonight. The takeaway tonight is they didn't play that well. I got to be honest. They didn't. I was prepared to break down mistakes, missed tackles, dropped interceptions. Branch played a great game, but he dropped 2 interceptions. Terry and Arnold, you can't be that handsy. I'm sorry. You can't be that handsy. It's not going to work in this league. So my takeaway, the positive, and I'm always about the positive, we didn't actually play that well. Still won the game. So there's a lot to clean up, as Dan Campbell would say. I love the schedule because we get Tampa, who I think the Lions are better than, Then you get Arizona, who I know the Lions are better than, even though the game's out west. And then you come home for Seattle. And Seattle, quite simply, we owe you one. I think we owe you two, actually. I'm still looking at us being 4-0 at the break. And this is probably the ideal scenario because they can't feel too good or too cocky about this win tonight. There's a lot they need to clean up, but you got to win. But you still got to win. So ultimately, that's the takeaway. As far as the rest of the season, I'm sticking with my 13-4 prediction overall. I still think that you're going to see better versions of this team than you saw tonight. You're going to see better versions of the quarterback. Amon-Ra's going to catch 100 balls, so there's 97 more catches to come. I think that Branch is better, even better than he was last year, and he was pretty good. I think Gibbs is a superstar waiting to happen. But the biggest thing tonight is Jameson Williams. If that's the JMO we get all year, we are going to be difficult to keep out of the end zone. And 26 is a lot of points, even though it's overtime. We didn't even play well tonight. We had a bunch of empty possessions. So I'm not going to do too much because it's so late. But the ultimate takeaway is if that's Jameson Williams, we're going to be an explosive offense. There is a lot for the defense to clean up, and I think they know that. So go work on those things. I think that this was a really good way to win a football game when you didn't play well and it wasn't easy and you had to scrap. But to fans who don't know already, and I think most of us reasonable fans know, this is what we're in store for. We're in store for a whole lot of these games. Some of them we're not going to win, by the way. But I don't think there's going to be a bunch of blowouts. I just don't think we do that. That's not who we are. But I tell you what, when I looked at the offseason part I was going to do, the Eagles may have gotten better. And if they fix their internal stuff between their quarterback and their coach, they're going to be a tough out. San Francisco is as good as they were last year. Maybe better. Does Brock Purdy grow and get better? We'll find out. I will not respect Dallas ever. I don't think Dallas is as good as we are. And I think they stole the game. Like the refs stole the game last year, and I don't care about Dallas. Green Bay depends on Jordan Love, right? It depends on Jordan Love. Green Bay can be a team that has enough talent, but after that, nobody. So as far as the rest of the teams, contenders and projections, if we go 14-3, the NFC Championship game is in Detroit. It's not in San Francisco. It's not in Philadelphia. It's in Detroit. And I will take us against any team in the league in that building when we're right. I think tonight's effort probably wouldn't have beaten San Francisco, and it probably wouldn't have beaten Philly. And I don't really worry about the AFC because when I have to worry about the AFC, we're in the Super Bowl, and I don't really care. So tonight's takeaway is really three parts. Good teams win when they don't play that well. And that's what happened tonight. So it actually encourages me because I know we can play better. And we will. And they will. I'm a fan that says we. And if you're one of those people that bothers, that's not my problem. I don't care. They can play better than they played tonight. And they will play better than they played tonight. Jameson Williams makes the Detroit offense really, really dynamic. When you can hit them with Gibbs or Montgomery or JMO or St. Brown or Laporta, the offense will be fine. The problem, unfortunately, is the secondary is still not right yet. Kind of handsy, gets beat in man, but I expect to see a better version of Carlton Davis. Brian Branch is still getting better. Terry Arnold's first game, literally first game. So like I said, I was going to try and keep it short and sweet. I think I jumped down a little bit of a rabbit hole, but a win is a win is the headline. JMO is spectacular. Good teams win when they don't play well. And grit is a real thing. If you didn't know what grit meant and you thought it was a Southern breakfast dish, which it is, but it's also a way the Detroit Lions play football. And that's what it looks like. Whatever it takes. whatever it takes, however you have to do it. And I could point out 1 or 2 or 3 plays, and that game's a blowout. If the ref doesn't call that PI on Terry and Arnold, the bad one, the first one, that's a 17-3 game. Lions, it's 4th and 6, and they're probably not going to kick the field goal. You go down and score, and that game's 24-3. The game's over, right? That is a big part of it. So a third quarter bad call by the ref changed that game. But then there's momentum. There is Hutch. You get there, you got to make the tackle, right? Davenport, you got there, make the sack. Now that's Stafford also. And even though it's 3 years, number 9, I'm still a number 9 guy. Always will be. But at the end of the day, you invest those 3 hours, turned your stomach. It's late in the evening. You want to go to bed. You just want it to be over. But they won. So the philosophy of the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast is we don't apologize for losses. Never, not ever. In the 6 years of this podcast, I have never apologized. I mean, apologize for a win. I've never apologized for the Lions getting the win. Good to see you again, Andy. Thanks for listening. It's late. I appreciate it. Andy's loyal. I like loyal. I don't know if he's a Lion fan or I'm pretty sure he is, but I do appreciate it. It's it's fun. Football. The podcast is fun. It gives you an opportunity to deal with all the rest of the stuff, and they won. So we're not going to go too long tonight. I'm going to take one of the Twitter, maybe 2. We'll take a couple of the Twitter questions. Let's see. Oh, right off the top. Okay, so I don't know what that means. I think it's supposed to say Slim Shady, but it's spelled funny. Slim something or other says, this Lion team won't win 10 games. I don't know if that's a question or just a statement, but I'll respond. This Lions team will definitely win 10 games. You either didn't look at the schedule, you're just trying to get me going at like midnight, 12:30 Eastern time, which can work. I'm capable of falling for this trick. I might, but they didn't play their best. I went over all this before. So if you truly think there are 7, I guess in your world, 8 losses on the schedule, I would challenge you to tell me where those 8 losses are. This was one of the opportunities, right? The idea is you got to catch the Lions on a week where they're not clicking on all cylinders, and you got to steal it. And the Rams had a chance. The Rams were there, and they didn't. I've told you the 6 games that I'm worried. There's 11 games. I think the Lions are the better team, and they're going to win. The only 6 games that mildly concern me: Buffalo at home, Green Bay at home, Green Bay on the road, Dallas, San Francisco, Houston on the road. So road games at San Francisco, Houston, and Dallas, that's tough, but that's what you get when you're a first-place team. You get a first-place schedule. So you have to go on the road to a pretty good Texans team. You get the rematch against San Francisco, which I think is week 17 and hopefully won't matter by then. You're going to play Green Bay twice, and Jordan Love's injury is going to determine it. Those are the 6 games I focus on. So of the other 11, do I think they're going to go 11-0? No. They're going to not play well and lose one of those games, I'm sure. But those 6 I'm talking about, if they go 4-2, they can go into Dallas and beat Dallas. Hell, they did it New Year's Eve last year, and the refs robbed them. You can go into Lambeau if Jordan Love's not right. Sure. And beat Green Bay's backup? I think so. You can beat Buffalo at home because Buffalo's good, but so are you. You go 3-3 in those 6 I'm talking about, you're probably a 13-4 team, maybe 12-5. And if you're 13-4, I stay with the NFC Championship game is being played in Detroit and not San Francisco. And that team up 17 at halftime at Ford Field, that game's over. I believe that home field advantage exists, particularly in the playoffs. I don't think you lose your momentum. And I think they've got the lesson learned from what happened back in January. So I think for me, the goal is simple. We want the NFC Championship game to be in Detroit, not in Philly or San Francisco. And I actually like Philly more than San Francisco. So that's not because of my friend Chris, but yeah, Chris is a fan of the Eagles. Not Chris the Packer fan, another Chris. But that's the goal. You got to win these games. You got to tough these out, get them however you need to, because if you don't lay an egg in Chicago last year, if you don't fold on Thanksgiving against Green Bay last year. If the refs don't steal the game in Dallas and you're 13-4, you would have been playing that game in Detroit. And maybe with a tiebreaker, still would have been in San Francisco. But if you're 14-3, that game's in Detroit. Those are the ones you can't. And tonight, with 4 minutes left, had all the makings of that game, Seattle last year, where your defense just didn't show up and you fought, but you barely lost. Those are the games. There's 4 of those 5 losses last year. My mind, you should have won those games. Right? Baltimore, you just didn't show up. There's going to be a Baltimore this year. I hope the Baltimore is Houston, right? If you go down there, okay, that was going to be a good team anyway. But those other 4 losses last year, Seattle, you did not play a complete game, and your defense was unbelievably bad. You can't have that. You had a bit of that tonight. In Chicago, I'm not sure what happened. Dallas, we know exactly what happened. Those 4 games, 3 of those could have easily been wins. So I think the goal this year is to clean up and not have those games. You're going to have a Baltimore. What happened in Baltimore last year is going to happen. In a perfect world, it's on the road. I'd prefer it not to be San Francisco, but it could be. So all right, one more. Oh. Right. Okay. So the idea is, what happens if St. Brown becomes, diva is what that's. Okay, that's not going to happen. That's a dumb question. St. Brown only had 3 catches. I guess the suggestion from, I don't want to say his name. The suggestion is, what happens if St. Brown gets upset about only having 3 catches? I don't think that's who Amon-Ra St. Brown is. I don't think there's any documented history of him being that guy. I think there's probably nobody else. No one in that locker room is happier for Jameson Williams, with the possible exception of Jared Goff, because he looked pretty happy, than Amon-Ra St. Brown. He understands the value of this version of Jameson Williams to the team, and likely to him. It could mean fewer catches. Maybe he only catches 92 passes, but they win 14 games instead of 12 games. Amon-Ra St. Brown doesn't care. He didn't care about that. He will do whatever he asks, and he will still throw great blocks. He will still run great routes. And if you watch this game and decided Amon-Ra St. Brown it's not going to be an impactful player, I have to question how you watch football. So yeah, St. Brown is not going to have a problem with how they won the game today. It doesn't seem like that's how that guy's wired. I think that he will show up next week and probably have 8 catches for 150, right? Or not. But I think that Jared Goff knows. Dan Campbell used the term, there's a lot of mouths to feed. They know. They all know. St. Brown knows that Jamel's good. He knows Laporta's good. He knows that Gibbs is good. He knows that Khalif will make big catches. And all the angst and consternation all summer and camp about, how do we replace Josh Reynolds? How do we replace Josh? I'm sorry. Josh Reynolds wouldn't have made a difference tonight. He just wouldn't. I don't think those other guys didn't play. Khalif made a couple of plays, maybe a reverse and a catch or 2. But there's plenty of guys to throw the ball to. I all due respect to Josh Reynolds, wherever he is, Denver, I guess. We're not going to miss Josh Reynolds. So let's just table all that talk. I'll do one more just for fun. I didn't think this many people would be up. Okay. Okay. So the play calling. Do you think Ben Johnson's play calling was adequate? Adequate's a weird word to use there. I personally am not one who believes the Ben Johnson hype. Do I think he's a good offensive coordinator? Sure. I believe a lot of his hype is people who don't want to give Jared Goff credit for being an outstanding quarterback. And I actually went back and watched the podcast I did 2 days after the trade. And I wasn't as excited as I am now. Obviously, I have 3 years of data. But at that time, literally 2 days after the trade, I said, we got a really good quarterback in this deal. I love the picks, but we got our quarterback in Jared Goff. Jared Goff's not a bum. I think he's 26 and he's been to a Super Bowl. And I don't know why we think he was a throw-in. And I needed to go back and see. I don't want to be that guy who comes on and say, "Oh, I always love Jared Goff." But it's time stamped. You can find it on YouTube. It's called Stafford Trade. You can find it if you want to see it. And 4 minutes in, I said, I love the Jared Goff part of this deal because I wanted to say something about that because I thought I remembered saying he's going to play well and we'll probably sign him to an extension. And I did about 7 minutes in. I said exactly that. And I felt good about it because it happened exactly like I had hoped. But there are a lot of people who still don't want to give him credit. I hear people have all this love for Hendon Hooker, and I don't understand why you saw him play half of a preseason game. So, but to the Ben Johnson piece, some of the Ben Johnson love is actually Jared Goff hate, in my opinion. I think Ben Johnson's a good OC. I don't think he's a genius. I don't think he's the greatest coordinator ever. I think he's a really good coordinator. Today, I think he called a pretty good game. I think the execution was pretty good. Goff made a couple bad throws. I think the real issue was they scored 20 points in regulation. And I think there was 2 empty drives. One of them was a result of an interception, and one was a bad third down throw. So they both kind of land on Goff. Other than that, I don't really have a problem with the offense that much. J-Mo was featured. Montgomery was featured, Gibbs was featured, and there's just going to be weeks where it's like that. I don't have a problem. If you score 26 points most weeks in the NFL, you're going to win, unless your defense is atrocious. And last year, the pass defense was 27th in the league, which is the definition of atrocious. I still think they're going to be better. I believe they're going to be better. So I think Ben Johnson called a fine game. I'm not the one who examines Ben Johnson every week. I think players make plays or players don't make plays. I am more prone to say that guy should have caught that pass. Goff should have made that throw. That guy shouldn't have fumbled. Then Ben Johnson should have called a different play. I don't always love the 2nd and 5 tackle, off tackle play or dive play. I think 2nd and 5 is an opportunity to take a shot. He doesn't do that as much as I would like. I think the reverses are nice. I think the bubble screens are nice. You spread the other team out. And I think it helps your running game. I think some of the stuff he did early in the game helped when David Montgomery came out in overtime and punched the Rams in the face. So yeah, I think Ben Johnson was fine. I think everybody could be better with the possible exception of J-Mo and Anzalone and Hutch. Yeah. So J-Mo, Anzalone, and Hutch are the 3 stars of the game. I think that pretty much Gibbs played well. Pretty much everybody else in the organization. Anzarike played well. Davenport played well. Some guys played well, but they could coach better. AG could call a better game. Ben Johnson could call it. But Goff could play better. Maybe St. Brown and Laporta could play better. The secondary still has work. That's my final thought is a win is a win. Good teams win when they don't play well. I want this version of J-Mo every single week. And I'm excited that football is back. I still see 13 wins on this schedule. And quite frankly, guys, 10 of them might be like tonight. Gut-wrenching. Why do I do this? What's wrong with me? Yeah, 10 of them might be like tonight. So it was fun still. The Lions are back. They're 1-0. And the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast is back after a little bit of a hiatus. Hopefully you enjoyed it, the podcast and the game. Obviously, next week we got a early kick in the afternoon, so it'll be at a reasonable time. But the few of you who popped in late tonight, Andy and others, I appreciate it. Anybody watching it later on delay, I appreciate you watching. We always like positive feedback, likes, thumbs up, even comments. And even the guy who doesn't like the podcast, who comes in and talks crap every now and then, he can come back. I'm fine with that too. I don't think he wants it this year, though, because I still think this is our year. So off to an okay to good start. A win is a win. Thank you for listening. We will see you next week, and I hope everybody has a good night and a good day tomorrow. And go Lions.